allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to Vets Chatting with Granny Lisa. I'm your co-host, Peggy the Enforcer. Today, Granny Lisa is interviewing KiJana Prowant from Project Still. And today we'll be discussing that along with the military tribute banners and more. How you doing tonight, Granny?
I am doing fabulous. I am trying to get this screen so I could see. Oh, there we go. I was like, that scared me. But I am so excited for our guest because I have known her for 2 years now. And I was so excited because she's a female veteran and she's a young female veteran like Peggy is. So there is like a different perspective of time in service from mine. So it's always interesting. But she is a mother and a veteran, and she was in the Air Force. And she has got some awesome things that are going on. She's a hard worker. She's always looking out for her brothers and sisters in different projects and fundraisers, and still be an at-home mom. And oh my gosh. So I am so excited to have you here, honey.
Thank you so much, Granny. I miss you. In the summertime, it's going to go on 3 years of being friends with you lovely ladies.
Oh, is it 3?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I
Wow.
said 2. I didn't realize it was 3.
Yeah, because I started Project Steel in March, and then we had the mutual who introduced me to VRS in the summertime. I think about June, July. Just starting out, so then that's when I got to know you guys and
That's right.
you and all my shenanigans.
Oh yeah, you and your shenanigans. Oh my gosh, you had a bunch of shenanigan people with you too, including
yeah.
my daughter.
Yes. Who is still as lovely, following her mother, and I see all her progress, and I just love how you've given like such a beautiful soul to this world. So I see her progress too, and
Yeah, she's doing really good. So I want to know, first off, can you give us a little bit of background about you, your service, and then getting out? And then let's, how, as a female veteran, getting out, your perspective, and transitioning.
Okay.
And then let's go into Project Steel. And I know you're doing another, I think it's a fundraiser that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, got to tell us about that.
Okay. So I'll start out with, I'm a military brat myself. For those who don't know, my stepfather was a Marine. My dad was born on Port Hueneme. We've always been military affiliated. And then when I was little, I went to my first air show thanks to my stepdad, Avon, and we went to Andrews Air Force Base, and I saw the Thunderbirds, and I saw so much, and I was like, oh my gosh. And because my dad worked with the government, doing the monuments, we got to go see all the monuments, Vietnam, we got to go underneath the Lincoln Memorial. And then, of course, when you're in Maryland, I like to call it like the most patriotic state other than Texas, because, DC's right there. We did a lot of field trips to DC. And then my brother Keith enlisted into the Marine Corps. And after that, that was what I wanted to continue on. So as I moved to California, I got to know my mom. I still kept connections with those that were in the military. My first boyfriend, he's a Marine, and he's still a Marine to this day, active. And he's been the biggest support with my enlistment. But after we split, I ended up having my first son. And then after that, I said, okay, I thought that I could not enlist, and I was supposed to go into the buddy program for the Navy, because I was like, oh, I'm going to be like my bio dad. But then I got pregnant. So they're like, okay, you can't enlist maybe after you have your son. And so I was going to, like I said, if you look at my Facebook from when I was younger, when I was like 15, 16, for years, you always see me posting patriotically. I ended up being raised to understand, like, hey, don't talk about it, do something, be a part. So I always wanted to be a part. And then after I got married, I had my daughter, and I said, okay, I have 2 kids. I feel comfortable. I'm going to enlist. I was told to enlist Air Force because I was smart. I still am a little smart, so as I was, and so I rose my right hand with my 2 babies, and I enlisted in the world's greatest air power. You know, I'm biased, so that journey for me was a little bit difficult in the beginning because my first marriage, he was an infantryman who was he had some issues, and so I ended up being a domestic violence survivor. And when my unit caught wind of the DV I was going through, they showed out full force, got rid of him, and after that, I said I owe the Air Force my life. I owe the military my life because they came through, even though, you know, there's still issues within it. Right then and there, I was like, okay, this is something I have to be in for the rest of my life. But then I got carbon monoxide poisoning, and because it damaged parts of my brain, I was no longer a functioning airman. I was no longer a functioning part. In the service, I was a personnelist, which was, a lot of people like to make fun of admin and personnel because all we do is sit behind a desk and, you know, mess with papers. But I've convinced some people that it's not too bad, because while everybody else is doing what they need to do, somebody needs to make sure that they're getting paid properly. And if they aren't getting paid properly, then they need to have someone that they can go to fix it, because we all have our different jobs. And as my daughter, you know, you guys saw how she threw on a Go Army lanyard and tried to give me a heart attack.
Uh-huh.
I tell you,
But I'm Army, so I didn't have a problem with that.
I know you didn't, and that's so everybody was so excited, you know. So as I talk with her, you know, we have conversations about what's going on. She's very aware. And she asked me questions, and I said, honey, listen, the military comprises of 6 branches, Coast Guard part-time. And every single body is valuable, because when you look at inside of a clock, you see all those cogs have to move. And if one is damaged, that clock can't tell time. So I said, no matter if someone makes fun of you, do your part, you know, because many want to talk about it, but they don't want to do anything. So be the ones that can do something. And she's like, Mom, why don't you run for office? Because I believe in fighting. So, and you can't really fight in a suit. I've tried. It doesn't work. So I was like, I'll be in the military, you know. So she's thinking about doing it, even though she's 9, she's going to be 10. And, you know, she's like, Mom, we can start early, right? I said, yeah, feel free. So I told her, like, even though I did paperwork and you see people make fun of us pogues, I did my part. I've helped with deployments. I've helped with those becoming commanders. I helped with special duty pay. There's a lot that I did. So especially when I ran DEERS at the NSA campus, I was one of the ones that helped with the process, because NSA is a very complicated base. But I did not go in the building, so I don't know nothing, y'all. And that was the biggest fun part for me. And then when I got out, I had my kids, and I decided that I was going to keep going somehow, some way, because my husband at that time, he was still in, and I still had connections. So they relied on me a lot for my help and assistance. And then we started seeing how big the problem was, because as I was going through TAPS, and, you know, I had difficulties after I got out, and I was very lucky that I was married, because if I wasn't, I don't think I would have been in such a great place. And I had a great privilege to not face many of the difficulties that those who get out end up, you know, facing. And then as I learned more about it, myself and my ex-husband, we were going around, we were giving out bags, you know, we started talking to veterans. Like, we'd stop on you know, on the side of the street, we'd have a conversation like, hey, what's going on? And then they would ask me to connect them with resources. I met a lot of veterans where, when we were getting our stimulus checks, I would use the stimulus check we would go get them their haircut. We would help them get an apartment. I would take my time, helping them get jobs and stuff like that. And then one of the guys got with me and he was like, hey, why don't you do this as like a whole business thing? Because all these resources I've asked for help and they haven't been as proactive as you are. And at that time I was heavily pregnant. So I had to kind of lean back, and then everything got put on lockdown. So one thing we saw about the pandemic was, even though everything else was shut down, homelessness wasn't. And then I was like, okay, I'm still seeing guys out here that are homeless, and I'm calling resources and I'm calling the VA, because they say if you see a homeless veteran, you have to call them and then they'll do outreach. And I started seeing how complicated the process was. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to join and try to work for a nonprofit to do my part. And so I tried applying for all these different nonprofits, and I got rejected from a lot of them. And then I was like, okay, how do I do this myself?
Hi,
And I was like, how do I do this myself? And so I tried to call other nonprofits, and I was, how do I do this? Can I do this myself? And I learned the hard way that nonprofits don't like to share because it's competition. We get this one pool of money and we all have to grab for it. So nobody's really helping me out. So that first year of Project Still, when you guys met me, was my most difficult because I had no instruction. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Nobody wanted to partner with me. Some would be like, hey, let's do this fundraiser. And they would start helping me, and I'd put out for the fundraiser, but then they would pull back because then they wanted to do something with a different nonprofit. So I learned a lot of difficulties, and I kind of stood there. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do something differently. So then I partnered with Winkle Court Military Village. They're doing a pilot program to do the veteran villages, help my vision. And ever since then, a lot of you saw that I was working intimately with them. I was doing the rehab of the units. We were providing a lot of the first items, because as I was housing veterans in different places, I discovered, okay, they don't have couches, they don't have beds, they don't have, pots and pans. And that still contributed to suicide. When they felt that isolation, just because they had shelter now, I didn't realize that there was still this missing piece. They still didn't have any purpose. And then as we get them sheltered and we get them a home or we get them an apartment, we tried to help them get jobs, to where I was going myself and picking up those who I was working with, and I would take them and I would sit there. If they had a paper application, because I have great penmanship, I would fill out the application for them. I would list myself as a reference. I would go and I'd talk to these people. They would get hired, but then we started working on their VA compensation pay. Right. And while they're trying to go to get their compensation paid because they have PTSD or something that's been unaddressed, they have to miss work. And then a lot of jobs and a lot of bosses, they don't give a shit. You're missing work, they're missing money. And so I would literally get into arguments with some of these supervisors, like, hey, you got this fucking sign up here and you say you appreciate veterans and you're offering a fucking 10% discount, but the veteran that's working for you that's having real issues, you don't want to forgive him for trying to address that. And it's a medical thing. And when I got with Winkle Court, I kind of stuck with Winkle Court because I was like, okay, I need to take a step back. Project Still never ended. Just because a lot of people didn't see us post much, we never stopped doing anything. Any volunteers that I had, we kept going. We were fine-tuning what it meant to be, a veteran that was going through, all the difficulties, helping them fix credit, helping them get into a home, helping them figure out things. And then I was very fortunate, and most people wouldn't think this is fortunate, but I was very fortunate after Skylar, my oldest son, went to the ICU. Peggy, you and Granny saw that. You guys were supportive and making sure I was keeping my shit together. I missed out on rent because I was trying to get all this stuff done, the childcare, taking care of stuff, having to pay out of pocket. And I had to utilize a service that I was partnering with getting their vets into Winkle Court. And when I say that process was a fucking nightmare.
Hold on here just a minute. I want to hear this. Peggy, can you read Luke's responses? Because I think you'll appreciate this from him.
Luke said he was a homeless vet at discharge from service, the lowest of the low he's been. Thank you so much for what you do to help our brothers and sisters. This live hits him real in the real stuff. And then he said, 100% unemployable here, 90 PT. I feel you, sis.
Oh, thank you, Luke. I appreciate those kind words.
Yes.
But when I was applying for service, for help with the organization, it was a fucking nightmare. I mean, they wanted so much, and I was getting that. And this is why I say it's a privilege. It's a privilege. Most people wouldn't think it is, but I had to fight to get the paperwork I needed. And then at the time, I don't think I had a vehicle. Yeah, I don't think I had a vehicle at that time.
You didn't.
And I had to figure out how to get there. And then, I'm so glad I had a phone. And then I realized if you miss a phone call, then they'll say, hey, if you don't return our calls, we're going to exit you out of this. And that'll show that you're going to miss your appointment. If you miss the appointment, they leave you like one message, and then it's up to you to try to figure it out. And a lot of the veterans that came to Winkle Court, they didn't have phones. They didn't have internet. They didn't have transportation. So I have phone, I have internet, I have transportation. I can see the emails that they're sending me. And I got so angry. I got pissed the fuck off, and I'm cussing. I cuss because that's how maddening it was. And I realized how much worse it was than I originally thought. So I got the privilege to experience and step in those boots, because some would tell me, like, you don't know what it's like to try to go through this and how disappointed they can make you feel. And they were absolutely right. And I never denied that I didn't know how they felt. All I wanted them to see was, hey, I'm trying to help. So after going through that experience, I got to talk to the owner of Winkle Court, and we got to fine tune the process. And now we're doing a pilot program where Project Still will definitely, we're considered the full-time case managers of all the residents that come through different organizations like American GI Forum, Endeavors. And so when they come into the complex, because we're unique to where if they get in there, they're covered by American GI Forum, they're covered by Endeavors for a little bit, their housing is taken care of. Right when they come into the program, we are going to pretty much aggressively attack their compensation. Okay, you applied for the service. What are you missing? Oh, you're missing an ID card? Well, I developed an ID card program for veterans that were actually this is why we're doing the banner program, and I'll get into that in a second. But okay, so you need an ID card. You need to get to DPS. We have a veteran right now that's communicating with me saying, hey, I want to stay here. I've been trying, but my ID's expired. And when I tried to go here, they said I couldn't do it because I didn't have my birth certificate. I don't have a valid ID, so I can't go get my paper notarized to get the birth certificate shipped to me. And I realized this is a nightmare after nightmare after nightmare. So we made a strategic plan. Like, a lot of people think Project Steal means to steal. And I'm like, no, projects, they're like, why? It sounds like you're stealing. I said, no, it's strategically take and extract to an alternate location. So if you're going to house a veteran who is dealing with difficulties, you have to be strategic about it. You have to get a little bit more into the, the business, because it's on the lines of, if you see a veteran that comes in and they don't have a valid ID and they don't have their birth certificate, you need someone you can go to and say, hey, this veteran's coming in for case management services. They're trying to apply to get help with rental assistance. They don't have this, they don't have that. Can we get help? That's the resource that they need. So when Project Steel says strategically, we are literally breaking it down to the most basics. Do you have a birth certificate firstly? And then a lot of the vets that come into Winkle Court are older. They don't know that a lot of their records are being electronically put into DIPRIS. They don't know what DIPRIS is. They don't know what Mill Connect is. They don't have the internet to access Mill Connect to get their paperwork.
Right.
They can't access through DD-214. And some services say, oh, we'll help them get it. But it takes weeks. Because I was helping a vet, and I had to stand on the outside and say, hey, I told my ex-husband, Scott, I said, Scott, I'm not trying to be, like a spy, but I need you to go through this service, because it's hard for you to get a job because you're security forces and all your resume shows is that you'd make a great cop.
Huh.
So go through here and try this. And he's like, this is really difficult and it's frustrating me. And I was like, okay, so this is what we need to do. So finally, the owners of Winkle Court, we go to American GI Forum and we talk to them and we're like, hey, this is our plan. We did a memorandum of understanding. So we're not only are we going to tighten up the services, we're going to be the pilot program. So I was fortunate enough to join meetings with state representatives and those that are part of the lawmaking, and I get to have that conversation with them saying, hey, this is what we need. I was literally just at a meeting last night, and there's important people there, and they're being asked questions and they're not answering it. And I Granny Peggy, I gotta send you the picture where they took a picture of me while I was listening to their answers, because they didn't say anything, and I got up, and I might have made a couple enemies at that point, but my good friend Steve Price of Voices of Our Veterans, who I work with, and he helps with legislation getting passed. I said, I want to say something. And so I go up there and I'm like, hey guys, I really appreciate that, you're trying to join the good fight and you're trying to learn more about this, but I'm gonna tell you this right now. A lot of y'all didn't answer these questions that were being asked. You just talked. And as someone who your answers were, oh, we need to give these veterans resources so they can help out. As a resource, I'm telling you what you said was bullshit.
Yeah.
So take these questions and study them.
Well, we got to get the picture up there. I'm sorry. I'm like, I can see your face is so frustrated. Peggy, can you
Let me see if I can get
there?
I was so upset, and I don't say anything because I like to sit back and observe, and I'm like, I don't want to make any more enemies,
All
There we
right.
go.
Oh gosh.
I mean, your eyes and you're covering your mouth. Like, okay, I'm not going to say fuck. I'm not going to say fuck. I'm not going to say this is bullshit. I mean, I could just
Yep.
read your eyes that you're like just trying to hold yourself together there.
And listen, that's one of my partners that's in Project Still, who's helping me with housing veterans. And normally he's a very friendly looking person. So you can even see in his face.
Uh-huh. His
And
cheeks are all red.
yeah, like he's like sitting there, he's like, and then I'm under that, I'm like, bullshit, while they're talking, and we literally start texting each other. And I send him the gifts of us being like frustrated. And he's like, are these the people running our city? Like, no wonder we're going through this shit. And he has a brother who is a veteran that has PTSD severely. He's like, is this who my brother has to fucking deal with? And I was like, unfortunately, yes. But I'm doing what I can so that it doesn't have to be that way. He's like, yeah, we got to get this together. Because since he's a locator, he's a realtor, he knows a lot about veteran programs, because a couple of the people up there were like, oh, the veterans can get their VA loan and get them into housing. And, their conversation, I'm sure, can work. And he's like, do they not know the process on getting a house? I said, apparently not. You're looking at people who have jobs their whole fucking entire time. So that was me last night, because I've been trying to talk more about how we handle stuff. And I literally told them, you guys did not answer the questions. You want me to be a resource? I'm gonna tell you this right now. If you send me a veteran and I know they came from you, I know you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I let them know, like, hey, we lost 3 service members in the Middle East. Did you know that? They did not know that. Hey, if I were to be recalled, I'm going back and I'm leaving behind 4 children. There's soldiers with TBI. Our bases have been attacked over 100 times in this conflict. Y'all need to tighten this shit up so that when they come home, because guess what's going to happen? They have an injury. They're going to come home. They're not going to be the same. They're going to have PTSD. They're going to go through the medical discharge process if they're lucky enough. And then when they get out, they got to get VA compensation. They're not going to be able to adjust to how society is right now. And we're asking these same fucking questions that were being fucking asked and answered. You're talking about veteran suicide being still between 17 and 22 people a day.
And that's not even true.
And I told them that too. There was just a report that came out in October last year saying the VA grossly underestimated thousands of suicides. There's a report from an executive at the Department of Veteran Affairs saying that overdoses do not count towards veteran suicide numbers anymore.
Nor does it only hanging and self-infliction with a weapon.
Exactly.
Those are the only 2 that they count. How ridiculous.
And I told them that too. I said, this shit needs to get together. And I said, it's been years that we've had these same numbers. When the reports came out, they ended the year in 2019. Why does it have to wait 10 to 15 years before we have an accurate count? Like, don't you guys have the power to do something about that? And I said, I go to a meeting every first Friday for this coalition. And I said, if you guys come next month, and these questions are asked, I pray to God that they are a different fucking answer. And so when they ended the meeting, some of them didn't want to shake my hand anymore. Because when they were answering questions, especially about homelessness and veteran services, they would literally look at me as if they were trying to talk to me, but some of them didn't want to shake my hand anymore. I tried to reach out my hand for another one, and all of a sudden, they're like, oh, excuse me. So I may have pissed some people off, and I apologize to Steve. I
Good.
said, you normally know I'm not one to say something, but I couldn't help it.
No, you always say something, girl. I'm
I
just
did.
glad you got to say it to the right people this time.
Yes, I did. I did. A couple of them were Texas lawmakers. They were
They should be
representatives.
hearing it.
They should. And luckily for him, he understood. And I let him know, like, sir, I thank you for understanding. But these people around you, they need to be educated a lot more. And I gave one lady kudos because she said, hey, I don't know anything about this until they told me. I said, thank you for taking a baby step. Now here's the right way to learn about it. So that's what we did. And so as we're going about this, I am getting more active. And so what we did, so we established this pilot program with Winkle Court. So now these state representatives are looking at the Winkle Court Veteran Village project as a pilot so that we can expand. The owner of Winkle Court, he's going to be looking into more properties where we could do more case management, because as we built a relationship with the Department of Veteran Affairs in HUD-VASH, yes, a lot of y'all don't know that, but I'm working intimately with them on helping them get housing. So we're looking into other properties where we can specifically be dedicated to those that are going through the process with American GI Forum, Endeavors, Veterans Matter, Department of Veteran Affairs, HUD-VASH. Those are who we're, working at, because they're voucher ready. They just don't have the landlords that are empathetic to say, hey, we have someone coming in. If they miss out on rent, then we shouldn't be so quick to evict them.
Okay, we got some questions here. Also,
Absolutely.
we got an active audience. I don't have the comments here to see, but I think Joel said, good job. Thank you, Joel,
Sounding
for
good.
participating. And Luke, of course, is saying agreed. And I don't know, is there anybody else that I'm missing that had a question or comment? Let's just see. Seth says, um, are you
Here we go.
mission continues mass deployment in Texas this year? And so, yeah, there's a mass deployment going on all over from what I've been told. And I think, Peggy, did you have any questions too? Because
Well, actually,
we want to be able to catch the questions.
Luke wants to talk to
you
you.
know.
I actually do have a question, since you're talking to the representatives and stuff. Have you and Joel says, no, we're good, just watching like a pervert or a white fan by the river. And a white fan by the river. Gotcha. A white fan down by the river. Anyway, so my question, KJ, is are they aware that bankruptcy is causing a lot of our homelessness issue? I mean, because a lot of people don't realize that. They think that they're doing the right thing filing bankruptcy, and then suddenly you don't qualify for all these assistance programs.
No, you don't.
No, they do not. And I can't expand on that because you know me, Peggy. I'm very direct. No, they do not. And if they do, it's more so like, oh, we need to find a resource to help you out with that. And that's why I'm fighting so hard, because it's like, okay, if we can get some landlords that can be like, okay, you got a bankruptcy, you got an eviction, but you're in this program and they're going to consistently pay your rent for this long to help you get your, feet off the ground and whatnot. That's my goal, because it's like, they're like, oh, we need to get our veterans into housing. And Chris and I are looking at each other like,
well, don't they do that? I'm sorry, but doesn't the government do that for prisoners? When they get out of jail, they get them set up in a group home or into housing and finding a job for them, getting help on food, utilities, and everything through this program, and getting reestablished into society. If they can do that for prisoners, Why can't we set up like you're asking
for the veterans.
for the veterans? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Because they get more money when they have prisoners versus homeless veterans. It's no secret that jail is so in most places jail is privatized, so they get a certain amount of money per inmate per month. And so when they go ahead and do the prison reform, it brings a lot more attention for the blue wing and the right wing. And I literally told them to. I was like, guys, I'm not a political person. Left wing, right wing, it's all the same fucking bird flying to hell. So we got to straighten it out. And I think I made Chris laugh at that one because I wasn't going to say that, but they were kind of pushing people like, oh, you know, vote for me. Who gives a fuck? And I say that in the most unladylike way. So it's one of those things of like we're taking care of everything but our own. And I'll tell you this right now, while we enlisted and we rose our right hands, we did not enlist for a gold casket. We did not enlist for the parades and stuff like that. But God damn it, we deserve every fucking thing.
Right.
We didn't enlist to get decommissioned after we got out either.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I will say that, you know, they do have those programs because I've heard about those. And another thing that made me mad in that meeting, they're like, oh, well, homelessness doesn't just affect the veterans, you know, it affects other people's too. So we have to do this. Okay, but we're here for veterans. You're literally in a veteran coalition group.
Yeah.
Why
we're
we
not
have
talking
to do
about
it.
them.
So we're not talking about the other people because guess what? It's a lot easier to get civilians housed than it is for a veteran because civilians don't come with as many mental illnesses or medical issues that veterans do in a result of service. Civilians have the privilege of having consistency in their civilian life. Whether you raise your right hand and you go into the service, you are reprogrammed to be the perfect sailor, soldier, airman, coastie. What do you call Space Force astronauts? I don't know what
but
you become what the government needs you to be. When you're in the military, even though you have certain perks, you still become a second-class citizen because you don't get the same privileges that a civilian does. What I told them, a big issue is the military for active duty. For some that aren't aware of certain tools, it becomes like
Marine,
and Marine. Let me hold on. Let me make sure I'm not going to get cussed out by my brother because he's in the Marines now too. I have another brother who just joined. He's in Okinawa. But it's one of those things of like the military can be like a Venus flytrap. It looks really pretty, but then you land in it and it doesn't close its mouth yet. But then you have all these airmen that are getting out, these soldiers getting out, and their credits in the 400s because they got the charger at 36% interest and they've had a consistent paycheck. You know, some have been in so long, they don't know what it's like to not have that paycheck anymore. You know, they don't know what it's like to not have the benefits. There's a lot of veterans I'm teaching now about the healthcare system and how you have to apply for healthcare within a certain amount of time. And if you don't have healthcare applied for, you get penalized for it. I'm teaching veterans who are, you know, a little bit older than me, some younger than me, on how to file their taxes. They've always had to rely on TurboTax or H&R Block, who has all these military specials. And when I tell these representatives this, it's like they don't think about it. And I said, you need to do something to where when you know, there needs to be something where it's like, hey, we have a big transitional program. You go through it for 90 days as a military member. You're provided with housing, you're provided with meals, and we're going to take you through what are your legal issues? What are your financial issues? What do you have now? How can we get this straightened out? Because I'm going to tell you this right now, and you guys can agree with me, veterans, military, we are good at being told what to do. We are good when we have a purpose. But if you don't give that veteran or that person coming out a purpose, what happens? Chaos ensues. So Project Steel, with the pilot program, we're working on a 90-day transitional program where in a couple of months, you are in the program for 90 days. You get up at a certain time. We're providing you with clothes. We're providing you with housing when we can. You're going to go through this program. We're going to look at your credit. We're going to look at your benefits. Do you have a VA compensation claim active? What are you missing from that claim? What do we need to get for you? Oh, you don't have a social security card. Do you have your birth certificate? You don't have it. Okay, so let's get you the basics. First, let's get you a bank account. Let's get you your birth certificate. Let's get you your social security card because those are the fundamentals that you need. You didn't need them when you were in the military because not everybody's going to want to take a picture. What do you need to do that? Okay, so let's set up a social security appointment. You have an address now. Let's get this to you. Let's iron out this compensation process. And when I tell the representatives about that, when I tell others about that, they get a light bulb. Oh, why haven't we had this? We're Military City, USA. Yes, yes. This is what I've been saying to you guys. But you guys don't like me because I'm not your friend. I'm not going to kiss your ass and say, oh, thank you. I think I was one of the few that did not clap when they finished talking. Like everybody gave them the arbitrary clap when they finished answering. And I'm just sitting there like, and you saw my facial expression. That was my facial expression majority of the meeting. So this is what I told them I'm going to be doing. And that's why we're doing the Military City Tribute banner program, because we are the largest joint DoD installation out here in San Antonio. We have Fort Sam, Randolph, Lackland Air Force Base, Camp Bullis. We have the Chapman Annex, where they train the special forces, special warfare operators for the Air Force, and others come in to do that too, like the PJs. We have Kelly Airfield. We have BAMC out here, which is, I believe, is a level 2 trauma center, or one of the top ones. We have several VA facilities that they're building out here. The entire military affiliated population in San Antonio and surrounding areas is 600,259 people. And the 7 surrounding counties, including Bexar County, whether it's a DoD civilian, dependent, reservist, retiree, veteran, or active duty. Yes,
I have a question.
I told you I'm smart sometimes.
That's okay, because I'm going to still ask you the questions.
Sure.
What about if somebody is like on disability, veterans that are on disability, and they already have like a place to live and everything like that, but they want to join your project and volunteer?
Okay.
Do you even have that? Do you have veterans that volunteer to do what you like, take veterans to their appointments, to if they don't have a license, and that kind of stuff? I mean,
we have before, but as I had my own issues that I was dealing with my family situation, being homeless for a little bit myself, because listen, I can make all the money in the world, but if you don't have the credit and you have an eviction, c'est la vie.
There you go. I know.
But with us ironing out this program, because this new partnership is it's brand spanking new. We spent weeks ironing everything out, and we just got the ink dried. And so we're actually going to be doing that, where we're going to extend a hand saying, hey, this is what Project Still is doing. We're taking in board members. We're taking in volunteers. We're going to get a big calendar up. We're actually working on it. On our website will be changed and adjusted. What you see on projectstill.com now, you will not see come Monday. But we're getting to where volunteers can come in, and we're going to tell them about each person that is in the Project Still's operations. We're going to have a calendar saying, hey, can you put where you have some free time, or we can call you and say, hey, Bobby, he has an appointment. He needs to get to the VA. Are you able to come and get him? Or we work with those that are in there. They have to tell us what appointments they have coming up. And when they give us our calendar, we're going to add it to the calendar on Project Still's website, where whoever volunteers gets to go in and they get to see, okay, so this veteran has this on this date and this is what they need to do. And they'll be able to go ahead and click and volunteer. And then we make the arrangements with that veteran where they get to come and pick them up and take them to the program. So that's what we're actually implementing. And that's all going to start Monday to be opening up for that.
Okay, so we need to definitely be blasting that. I see, Project Steel's down there on that. If you guys all are excited about this program and you're near where she's at and it's happening and you have free time, hit her up and say, hey, I can help. Let me know what I can do.
Oh, I would love that. And that also goes into doing the banner program. Thank you, Luke. I appreciate that. So that goes into our military tribute banner program. I'm not sure, ladies, if you got to check out the website, but in the city of San Antonio, since we have a lot of military appreciation events and we have a big military presence, the banners are these giant 24 by 48 inch. I'm little, so they're big when I hold it up, but those are going to be hung around the city of San Antonio. The money that we get from the banners, it's gonna of course pay for it to be hung up and pay for the banner itself. But the net proceeds we get from it are going to be kind of put into a pot to where not only can we supplement the needs of each veteran that we encounter, we're also going to share with other organizations. Because I've met organizations that have called me saying, hey, we're helping this veteran out. We don't have any stuff to put into their home and we want to give them a welcome basket. They'll call me, and if we have some of the funds, we'll go get it all together and I'll drop it off at their caseworker, and their caseworker will be able to take it to them. There are some other organizations that need a little bit of funds too. So on Monday, we're going to do an all call for certain organizations and say, hey, we're running this fundraiser. Do you want to work with us? And then we split it evenly, the net proceeds. For me, the most important thing for me is that we take care of the basic startup needs. So I want to be able to employ a notary on my board that can understand, hey, they may not have a valid license, but they may have a VA ID. Let's get this paper notarized so they can order their birth certificate. They need their birth certificate to apply for veteran services because they're facing a crisis where they may end up being homeless. I want to be able to pay for the license if they need it. If they need their social security card, we need to be able to transport them to go ahead and get that appointment, but on a bigger scale. We want to be able to provide those basic necessities, whether it's fingerprinting, paying for the fingerprinting. It's all these tiny little things that a lot of people don't consider. There's a veteran I know, I got them a job on Fort Sam, but they have to go get fingerprinted, but they can't get base access. So I'm going to take them on Monday with me to get my fingerprints to go ahead, because before I paid for it off of base for those that are working in a job that's not on base. But this one's free, luckily. But if we meet a veteran that needs their fingerprinting done and they need to go off base, the police department, they charge for it. So I want to be able to take care of that because they're actually doing what they need to do. So a lot of that funding is going to go into there. If there's a veteran that needs other organizations, while they get grants, sometimes those grants run out. For certain organizations, if a veteran gets help from them, they're only allowed to get a certain amount of help per year. So if you go to AGIF and you get rental assistance, you're only allowed to get rental assistance in a 12-month period from one organization. You can't go to Endeavors and try to get help from them. You can't go to the next organization and try to get rental help from them. But what they will help is you move, which is kind of, you would spend money to move them, but to not just take care of the month or two. But I can't tell nobody what to do with their job.
Well, so I don't know. Did you hear about the veteran that died on the street outside of his apartment in Houston? He was a Vietnam, very decorated, not Vietnam, I'm sorry, Freedom Navy. And he was living on assisted housing. And they had kicked him out. He had medical issues, and he had failed the bathroom being clean. And he had just used the bathroom. He had IBS really bad, but it was something else. So when they went in, he never got a chance to get it all cleaned up. And so they failed him. And he was kicked out, and he was living on the street. He was out for 3 days, and he died on the third day in front of his apartment that he used to live in. They did not contact his family or anything like that. It was a huge, huge article in the Houston newspaper. I just found out about it, and the family is taking legal action because when they had done the inspection, it was like 6 months, prior to this. And they were doing an audit, and they saw the note that that he had failed. And because they wanted to not have the audit be dinged in any way before the fiscal year, whatever, the time limit, they kicked him out. And so, yeah, and they knew that he had PTSD, that he had the medical problems, which is all documented, that he was a veteran. He only had to pay $1 a month to live there. He never missed any payments, nothing. No complaints about him, nothing. And they kicked him to the street. And because of his medical problems, he died 3 days after they kicked him out in front of the apartment. He didn't even have his ID, nothing. It was his neighbor that ID'd him with the police. And his sister, which is back east, got the phone call. And in the newspaper, they called him a homeless veteran, dies on the street. And that's how they referred to him. And he was very decorated Navy guy. And so it was pretty sad. All because they didn't want to fail their audit.
I don't understand how legally they can get away with that.
They can get away with it legally because he's dead. That's why. That's because if he would have been rescued, they would have to pay. But unfortunately, Houston has its own issues, which we're about to deal with. But that's very disappointing. And Granny, if you can send me the article on that, I'd like to make some phone calls to my legislative friends that I just made yesterday, and including the ones that I pissed off because they don't just cover San Antonio, they cover all of Texas.
Oh, so, yeah, no, it was horrible. I actually talked to his sister on the phone, and she still cries. And she said because he had PTSD, he was so ashamed that they kicked him out because of his bathroom. He had not just, regular, he had the explosive situation. And being disabled, it's not something that he could just take care of right away. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she said, and then to see that her brother is described as this homeless, derelict veteran. All he had to do was pay $1 a month, and and he's homeless. What's wrong with him?
No, that's not okay. Because one of the things is, and I'll say, Luke, with me being in property management, even if he was in a program and he failed an inspection, legally, per Texas legislation, regardless of whether he failed or not, they still have to file eviction. They still have to serve him with the notice. And if he does not vacate, they're supposed to take it, because we have veterans who've ran around naked. There's one vet who came up to me trying to hug me while I was naked. And, even then, even though he violated the lease, even though he failed his inspection, which we do have in there, we still have to go through the process of a notice to vacate. If they don't vacate, we have to file eviction in the courts. And then we tell the courts, like, hey, they violated the lease, they violated the program. This is what it is. You can't just kick them out.
Right.
No, they did do that.
I remember that, Kate, when you were going through that, because you called me one night. You were alone down there, and he did that, and you were. That was a lot you had to go through, sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I want to. Send me the stuff. I can't say what I want to do on a public platform.
No, but that's okay, but I will, because it was heartbreaking, because I'm thinking.
It all could have been prevented, and things like that makes me think of, we have a veteran on property. He's a big hoarder. He likes to have a lot of friends, but we don't judge. I just tell him, I say, hey, your friends are crawling over my boots. You need to tell them they need to take me out to dinner first if they're trying to get on my butt. But for his inspection, we are rallying together a group of people who will go in and they'll tidy up. And if I see that there is someone on Winkle Court or at a different property that I'm affiliated with, and I know, like, hey, the mess is getting too big, in their NFL inspection, we get a group of volunteers from around the city, from around the base. We get some gloves, we get some trash bags, we go and we tidy up and we help reorganize. And then they get a buddy for as long as they want to talk to, because a lot of the times people fail to realize when you make a mess, it's because your mental's not okay. And so if I were in that situation, I wish I could have been a resource to where they can say, hey, this is our standards. And if that veteran was put there and I knew that was a standard and he said, hey, I have this inspection coming up, this is what's going on. Okay, let's get over there. Let's go clean up so that you're okay, no matter what time it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more stuff that needs to be said. There needs to be more landlords. There needs to be more people that lead with compassion and actually give a damn so that shit like this doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is that the rest of his house was clean. He just had the problem before they showed up.
Yeah, no.
And that's the sad part. It's like, and I'm sorry, a man, I don't care if they're mentally ill or not, they're still a man. And most of them are not going to say anything. And, when he got the notices, because they found him, he just never responded to him. He didn't even let his family know. He was obviously either ashamed or he was overwhelmed and didn't know what to do.
And that's why I like the position I have with Project Still and Legal Court, because I get to build trust. Mm-hmm. I get to build a relationship with every single resident to where I know their dog's names. I know what food their dog eats. I know their allergies. I know what what they favor when I come and bring food. I know about all of this with them. And I do that because in the beginning, it is very hard to admit when there's something wrong, to where we've had residents where they didn't get to pay their rent because they lost their job because of an issue going on medically, but they didn't want to tell the owner that their sockets are blown out. They didn't want to tell their owner that their AC is not working. They would rather sit in heat and have heat exhaustion than to tell the owner saying, hey, I lost my job, please fix this. But I built a trust with them over the past couple of years to where they can call me saying, hey, this is what's wrong. Can I get some help? Because how I run the program and me running the program, I told them, I don't care if you're a few months late. We will find you help. Talk to me. I know how to change outlets. I know how to change out AC units. I know how to fix windows. I know how to repair flooring. I know how to repair valves in a toilet. I know how to unclog a toilet. I know how to snake a drain. I learned these skills myself. And when we talked about board recruitment yesterday, they asked, okay, so you don't have a board. You don't have a big board. Why not? I don't want somebody being dressed up all the time being on my board. I don't want somebody that doesn't know what I know to do. We need boots to ground. We have enough board members with their pretty pictures on the internet saying, hey, I'm a part of this organization. Okay, where's the mud at? Where's the mud at? So that's what I'm looking for, because I want to establish a system out here with this pilot program to where we give more of a damn, where we can actually do stuff. As you guys see me edit the website, you'll see all the pictures of us climbing through windows and under sinks, repairing leaks and going out to Lowe's and, getting everything that we need to make sure that we have a comfortable quality of life. Bless you. So that they know that their presence is more sought after than their money. Now, granted, we tell them, hey, look, you still need to figure out how to pay your rent, whether it's asking for a resource, whether it's looking for a job, because you can't live anywhere for free. Granted. But you still need to communicate so that we can prevent this from happening. And even with the new owners, I negotiated with them like, hey, these veterans, we can get them help with Stephen Price's help. And we gave them the notices to vacate, because unfortunately with a lot of programs where you need rental assistance, you have to have a notice to vacate or you have to have an eviction filing. We want to prevent it from getting to that point. But somehow, some way, we want to make sure we tighten it up. And I fight tooth and nail. Granny, Peggy, you saw the video where I'm out and about running around and
Oh, wow. I
Here,
know.
it never stops.
Well, and the thing is that just a question,
Okay.
because I mean, a lot of vets are not afraid to work. You know, like you said, they like to have a purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know, when you're having them come in, are you asking them, you know, would you be willing to help others in these areas if I need you? You know, like if I need a toilet unplugged, are you able to do that or change out this or so that they can like be part of your to go guys or gals?
So it's
Or is
funny you
that
mentioned
not
that.
allowed?
No, so my priority when they first get housed at Winkle Court is that one, they're comfortable. They take time to realize, okay, I'm safe. I'm housed. I want them to get to know me for that first month. I
Mhm.
want them to get to know their area, the resources. You know, we get them their plates, their cups, their spoons, their forks, their knives. You know, for those of you who don't know, Project still provides all that to veterans that are getting recently housed when we can, or we ask people for the donations because we're by bases. You know, PCS season, they're always throwing out stuff, want to buy new stuff. So the first month, it's them getting adjusted and getting to know them. And then as we get to know them, when we see that they're coming out, when we see that they're socializing, when we see that they're not afraid to shake hands anymore, then that's when I hate to say it, guys, but I have to do it sometimes. Um, I'll play the damsel in distress.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, I can't lift this up. Jack, can you come help me, please? Oh, yeah, I got it, Ruth. That's what you get for
Mhm.
being Air Force. You know, so, you know, we take time to make sure that
Yeah.
they're okay first because I don't want them to think they're just there because they need to help or I want their help. I let them know, like, hey, if you ever get to a point where you're comfortable and you like to help, we invite you to. And you know, I have some vets that they're cleaning out a unit right now because they just want to do it. Because there were some who recently left, and so they're cleaning out a unit to bring in more people. And he's doing it for cigarettes and beer. And he's like, "There's a lot of bugs, and I know you Air Force don't like bugs, and so let me just go ahead and take care of this." Um, and they barbecue together. They do karaoke at night together. So
Hmm.
we just allow them to get time to get to know each other and make sure they're okay. And that's another part of the banner program. So I saw Luke's comment about wanting to help. The biggest thing is the banner program for us right now on the military tribute banners, because part of we're looking for those if you don't live in San Antonio or you don't live in Texas, we are looking at sponsors that will cover the banners for those that have committed suicide or died without family. So the reason why it's starting on Monday is because we made contact with a few organizations that have helped with the burials of I don't know how to properly say this, but for veterans that have committed suicide, that don't have family, their services still deserve to be honored. So we tasked a few organizations with giving us a list of names, trying to get them some pictures so we can go ahead and do banners. So when you go to military tribute banners, you see there's a link where it says you can purchase a banner, but allow Project Steel to pick the veteran. If you live outside of San Antonio, outside of Texas, and you do want to help, that will cover the cost of hanging the banner for the veteran that we pick as we get that list coming in. We're making contact with the different BFWs for those veterans that don't have family that have passed away. We want to make sure that they don't have to pay for a banner, but that they're still honored. Because just because, you know, their mental war won doesn't mean that they should be forgotten. So that's
Mhm.
the most important thing, because all that's going to be split between those organizations that are helping us out. So that's why it's a little bit delayed, but that's one
Nope,
of the
I
most
get it. Nothing moves fast with government. We all know that one.
it don't move fast until I show up on the doorstep knocking like, hey, did y'all process these payments yet? Oh,
Don't
you
you
could have.
remember?
No, I pop up
I
like
remember.
That's what my boss loves about me, because he's like, hey, we haven't heard from, their caseworker. Oh, no. Okay. 30 minutes later, FaceTime my boss. Hey, I'm here at the office and I'm talking to them right here. Everything's good. We're figuring it out. And then I hang up and then I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, so what did you process on this list? What was the processing date? When did we expect it? Okay. And I think that they don't like me for it. But at the end of the day, if you're going to say you're going to help, keep your word. Because I'm gonna be at your door when you open first thing in the morning. I've gone to certain organizations who said they were going to help a vet and they're not answering my phone calls. And I will get there at 7:00 and they open up at 7:30 and I'll get my little lawn chair and I'll fold it out and I'll sit there and I'll play my Monopoly Go and I'll sit right there and different staff will come in. Hey, how you doing? And can we help you? Oh, no. Oh, there's caseworker. Hey, how you doing? Let me walk inside with you. Yeah. They hate that shit, but I fucking love it because it gets done.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I get it. Well, I don't know if you want to hang out some, but we have another segment that we're going to start, and it's going to be fun. And I would love for you to stay if you have time to go through it.
Oh, sure.
Michael has come up with a few things, and he's going to catch us, and he wants to hear our opinion with it.
Now, Granny, I want you to be honest with the audience. You came up with these. Because my sense of humor, I'm a lot like our guest. My sense of humor is probably not for every audience member out there. So, yeah.
I thought you were going to do the weird news.
Oh, no, I didn't have a chance to go through and do that this week. Remember, I told you that.
That's okay. Well, let's do then my idea. I thought they were hilarious. Now, some of them may not be, but we could give our opinions and laugh about it anyway.
Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one.
Exactly.
I had a joke, but I was like, I can't say it right now. So I'm gonna type it in the group message.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
So
let me see if I can share my
ready,
screen. Okay, just a second. I'm having to do some adjustments here.
No problem.
All right. Trying to be careful so I don't show any names or anything like that. Let me look here.
Oh,
good Lord.
I just send them to you. I don't even look at it. I laugh and then I send it. I am so spoiled, people. Let me tell you, I have no idea what goes on in the website or anything.
All right, here we go. I'm hoping you guys can hear it. Let me see.
Okay.
Can't hear the audio, can you?
Nope, can't hear the audio.
Let me restart it.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to play the audio through there.
Is it?
Nope.
Nope.
Well, okay.
Well,
hey, Granny Peggy, I sent my comment to the messenger.
Oh, let me see.
Anyway.
Oh.
Problem is, we don't have audio. I'm gonna have to figure.
Not all of it. I didn't say all of that. KiJana, why don't you finish up what the rest of the thought is that you?
Oh my goodness gracious! That's KiJana.
What? Am I wrong? Y'all don't do that? Well, if you did, the opinions would loosen. I'm just saying.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, now the people are going to be wondering, what is she talking about? I will read it.
No.
Opinions are like assholes. Some you got to leave alone, and some loosen up when you lick them.
Yeah. You got Mike in there giggling.
Oh my!
And of course, I got to do my granny thing. KiJana. My goodness gracious. And she's an Air Force gal too. But she's been
Well,
raised around Marines, okay?
and she's
Her
been around security
daddy
forces too.
and her daddy was a Marine. I mean, you can't
You can't
she
hold it
can't
against
help
her.
it. She
You
can't help
cannot.
it.
She can't help it.
Nope.
My father was Army. I know what it is.
Can't help it. It's in her blood. She tried to be Air Force girl, but you know what they say, you can you can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl.
That's
I
right.
think
Oh,
that's the same. She was around the Marines, and she could leave the Marines, but she can't take the Marine out of her. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
that sounds just as bad, doesn't it?
You know what's funny? So when Steven introduces me to people, he'll make that comment that, she was raised by a Marine and her brothers are Marines. So even though she's Air Force, I want to let you guys know this in advance. And I'm like, you don't always have to give everybody a warning. For 99% of the time, 99.5% of the time, I'm very classy until I open my mouth and I start cussing. But you don't need to warn them. Like, I like giving them a surprise. So
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good surprise.
I'm like
That's
I'm like an MRE that doesn't mention which candy is in there.
There are MREs that don't mention which candy's in there.
There's a few MREs. It'll say it has a candy in it, but it won't tell you what candy it is. You could get Skittles, you could get Twizzlers, you could get M&Ms. Who knows?
since
Oh.
when did MREs have candy in them?
You didn't know? They
No.
don't. No, yeah, they got them now, and I actually ate a maple sausage one the other day, and it had Skittles in it. I was so happy,
What?
and it has like the MREs have candy in them now. Sometimes they don't tell you which ones they are. I think those are maybe the ones that are like 20 years old, because some of them don't even have expiration dates. They just have manufacturer dates. But some of them don't even have
Huh.
that.
So I remember
Yeah.
we had like the lemon pound cake, poppy seed cakes, and stuff like that as desserts.
Oh,
I was
you're not
young.
allowed to eat the poppy seed ones anymore. If you get them, you got to throw out the one with the poppy seed and get a new one, because poppy seeds, I guess, make you pop hot on a drug test.
Yes, on opium.
Really?
Yep, because that's where poppy seeds come from.
Well, no wonder I got tested so much because I love those were my favorite things of them MREs.
Oh my, yeah, no, because
Mhm.
like they were like you guys are friends with me, so you know how my humor is, and
Mhm.
everybody's learning. So there'll be times when, I guess the Stanley Cups, they're like, oh, the Stanley Cups have lead in them. They're like, oh my gosh, throw them away. I'm like, man, I've eaten MREs. I've eaten all kinds of things I shouldn't eat. Everything is made to kill you. So I'm just going to have a good time. As long as I don't lick the lead button itself, we're good to go. And then they're like, MREs. Oh, that's insane. I'm like, no, they're pretty good if you heat up the pack. Don't inhale that liquid. Because you know how like when you put the water in the heat packet,
Oh yeah.
that smell, I'm pretty sure that could be on that list of toxic exposures for the VA.
Or
Because
kind of like when everybody was going through the gas chamber and they take the mask apart and they're sniffing, and then they tell you after everybody sniffs it, don't sniff the canister, and you're like, should have been the first thing you told us before you handed the bath to us.
oh yeah, I went through that twice, so I had to go through that chamber twice.
Twice?
Because the first time I went through, I had fight or flight. I said fight or flight, but instead of fly, I fight. So when we took off our mask and we had to do our jumping jacks and our push-ups and whatnot, they opened the door. I was like the fourth. Someone was in front of me, and I punched him in the back of the head, knocked him down, and jumped over him to get out before I started coughing up all the air. So they made me go through it another time. And then during the briefing, they decided that they were going to tell that story. And so when I went back in, I had to be by myself by the door so I wouldn't hurt anyone. And so I passed that time. I didn't have to go through it again. But at the same time, if I'm somewhere and you taking too long, get the fuck out the way. listen, Darwinism, survival of the fittest. And at that time, I was very fit. I thought I should have passed with flying colors because they knew in a dangerous situation, I was going to get the fuck out.
I see where you're coming from, but however, I mean, I've had more than just the gas chamber being security forces. We had to go through it more often, and in the field and being gas and stuff. And so when they're tossing those, you can't always get away from them. So
I never had a reaction to them.
through it again, so that you could understand how to properly respond if you were out in the field and you couldn't get away from it, so you didn't full fight or flight and then end up dying from the toxic inhalation and everything. You had to go through it again so you could experience it more calmly and effectively, so your body and mind realized, okay, this is what we need to do when we experience this, instead of running.
Oh, I didn't even think that. I just got out of Dodge. But now I know. But as a civilian, as a veteran, I'm gonna tell you this right now. If they had like a veterans, go through again, I'd probably fight to get out of there, because somebody's going to be joking and somebody's going to be taking their sweet time. And if I can't breathe, let me be. I think I did that with my ex-husband too, because he had to do the pepper spray. And I went through with one of my friends who was a cop out here, and we did the pepper spray thing together in the taser. I've been tased. I'm not going to tell you that story because that day ended our friendship, and they discovered how hard I hit for a 5'5" woman. But
speaking of tasers, Mike, tell them about your taser story.
Oh boy.
Okay, so number one, my friend, I'm not going to mention his name, but anyway, his dad was an ex-Navy SEAL. And of course, I'm a military brat myself. We used to go down. Well, I'll tell you what happened is we got a hold of a couple of police stun guns. And being boys, we decided we were just going to start playing tag with them. Then it turned into a game, and the game was called Stun Gun Tag, and we literally dogpile each other, and whoever pissed or shit themselves was out. And you just keep hitting each other with a stun gun. Yep.
Here's my question, right. Mike.
Hmm?
How many times did you get out first?
I think the first time it took 3, and that's because he couldn't hit me in the right spot.
That's fair. And the only way that game would be fun for me is with the cattle prods.
So, see, the problem with cattle prods is the voltage is high enough you can cause somebody to have a heart attack.
Well, if they know they might have a heart attack, they shouldn't be playing. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no. You know what I'm saying.
That's the Marine in me that is genetic.
But we used to do stupid crap like that all the time. I mean, so, and we were all military brats. I think we're all crazy anyway. So
Luke called you a hot shot.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it felt like.
I guess because before I enlisted, I was also on the wild side, where it'd be cold and I'd take out the taser, and I didn't know it hops when it's cold. So I would be right there and I'd be like, hey, beep. And then they would take off from me. And I was also one of those with my friends, because a lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm very country. I have a little bit of a redneck side. So I think we were in Louisiana at the time. We were in Lake Charles, and it was Lake Charles. Yeah, because I was stationed at Keesler. We went to Lake Charles, and I forgot where the fuck we went, but we found a shop that had crossbows. So we got some, and then I was like, hey guys, we're like, okay, let's go see, and we can, go out and about. And so we all go to this field, and we're all in a circle, and we're making a plan and stuff like that. And I turn around and like, okay, what is she doing? I said, oh, I'm going to try to pee standing up, and I have the crossbow, and then I aim it high up in the air and I shoot it. I'm like, everybody fucking run. And everybody takes off fucking running. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, I'm the last one out. And then one of my friends.
We used to do those with yard darts. Just chunk them up in the air and then make everybody run, because you don't know where it's coming down at.
Good grief.
You remember yard darts? Yeah, those were big enough to stab you through the head.
Yeah.
The other thing we used to do with stun guns in high school during study hall, we'd have somebody that was always the bully. We'd pass the stun gun up and let them hit the desk with it, so it'd make them jump and get them in trouble in front of the teacher. Because all they do is, you remember how small those desks are in school? So the moment you jump, the desk is coming with you,
Oh no, that sounds so exciting.
and
I
you
know
can't
for
get out of the desk, and the guy's holding the stun gun on it, so you're dancing.
let's see, but right now my biggest prank has been the fart spray.
Oh,
Oh my
And
God! Would you?
like
They still have Spencers in Texas?
they do. But now you get the little fart packets and the fart sprays off the ice cream trucks. So what I'll do with some of my vets at Winkle Court, because the ice cream truck comes around there, I'll buy some and I'll start like popping them and dropping them around because I'm dark enough to evade the cameras. So I like pop them and I drop them, and all of a sudden I'm driving off. Like everybody go, oh my God, I gotta go. I gotta go get to the kids, and I'm like, okay, and I'm going off, and as I'm trying to get out the gate, what the hell is that? What is that fucking smell? And then everybody's coming out trying to figure out where did the smell come from. They're trying to figure out who said shit. And I leave out and I'm cackling with my window down, blowing the horn. And then the next day it's like, so it was you who did that. If you don't have no proof, I didn't do it. But then a couple of them saw me buy them off the ice cream truck. And so now yeah, there's one who he's my maintenance guy. He's part of Project Steel too. You guys will see his picture on Monday. And he'll piss me off sometime because he likes to make fun of how small I am. And so what I'll do is I'll take my little fart spray bottle and I'll like, hey, I'm coming to pick you up for this maintenance job. And I'll knock and I'll spray and I'll like take off. And then he opens it up and he just gets a face full of ass. So that's my thing now. So yeah,
I'll tell you something you can do that I bet you've never thought of.
Ooh, give it to me.
So let's say you have an accident. Okay, everybody in the audience, I'm just saying this is a hypothetical situation. I have not done this. So let's say you have somebody in the office that you really don't like, and they've got curtain rods behind them that are hollow. All you have to do is at lunch go out and get you some shrimp and shove it in that curtain rod, and then put the curtain rod back up and walk off. In about 2 or 3 weeks, guess what it's going to smell?
Like a female.
They won't be able to find it. And they won't be able to find it.
Okay, so hypothetically, it's been done by someone I cannot name with sardines. Never thought of shrimp.
Oh my God, sardines be bad too.
Yeah, no, it was a nightmare. The wall got torn down. Like they could not figure it out. And it was in the middle of summer when the AC was broken.
Oh, Jesus.
You put a couple of sardines in the AC filter so that when it starts blowing out, it smells like, a female latrine the first 2 weeks of basic training. What you put it underneath the stove. You put it underneath the fridge, or if you want them to taste sardines, you just kind of put one in the filter where the water comes through.
Oh my God.
Hypothetically speaking, I've never done this.
Exactly.
A friend has. Not me. But yes, guys. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I got to get to the kiddos. My daughter got a phone. And then now she's been someone.
Well, I am just very thankful that you took the time to come on.
thank you.
Is there any last words that anybody has to share?
My last words would be, at this point in time, never ever stop, when it comes to fighting. I know sometimes it may seem pretty bleak, but always keep a purpose, always give a purpose. Like I said before, like a lot of you who follow Project Steel on social media will see that we have not posted much, but I never ever stopped. It's just I had to focus harder. And for me to focus, I had to give my, as much attention as I could, 110%. And y'all should not be afraid to go ahead and go to these meetings. If your state or your city has a meeting with some representatives associated with veterans, please go there and tell them that they're failing because their friends aren't telling them. Nobody's going to tell them they're going to try to get your votes and say, you shouldn't be doing this dependent on if I vote for you or not. You should do it because you got all the fucking resources and get your shit together. We need more people keeping everybody in check. Excuse me. Steven told me we need more people like me. Don't be like me, be like you, and use your experiences and let them know that they're failing you. And that's one of the major things that's going to make change, because I got some emails today from the meeting yesterday. Some people I didn't piss off too much. But that's what I want for you guys. And I want you guys to keep fighting, because we have this war right now. It's getting bigger and bigger. Like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does fucking rhyme. So we just have to make sure we work together as a veteran community, regardless of who we believe in politically, and understand that we are going to have a lot of young people coming home, and we don't want them to go through what some of us have been through and what some of us have seen our friends go through. So please work together and iron it out so that there's not a repeat. Because for me, based on social media with this Palestine and Israel conflict, I feel like some that are going to come home are going to feel some sort of Vietnam era reception from some folks. And I know when you look at the news pages and you see the comments and stuff like that, that's what it's appearing to be. So we got to do something to work together to make sure that when they come home, that they know that they have support and that they have defense. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Peggy?
You see something, say something, and always remember, sharing is caring. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Peggy, I'm going to ask this of you because I know I will get it messed up. If they want to subscribe to us, how do they do that?
Well, we've got the website, vetscomingclean.com, where they can see other episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And through vetscomingclean.com, you can find the YouTube channels where your Vets Chatting with Granny Lisa and all that is, so that they can then subscribe to your YouTube channel, or they can find us on Facebook. We have Vets Coming Clean group and podcast page on Facebook as well.
Also, and then I need support. So if you on my Facebook page would sign, be a friend, request being a friend, and hit the like on what is my Facebook page name? I think it's Granny Lisa Craft at Facebook. So please,
Yes.
if you're watching on Facebook, go there and check us out. And again, I have last words. If you're thinking about suicide, stop. Stop. Call a buddy, call somebody, talk to somebody. Do not kill yourself. And you have a purpose. You may not know it now, but I know you have a purpose. So please, please, please keep on keeping on. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, Granny.
Yeah, because we do love you. I may not know you, but you're a brother and a sister. I love you. I'm Granny. You're one of my kids. Simple as that. Alrighty, Michael, take us out, boy.